and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh, and in this video we shall discuss the featured article for 24th August 2021, which is on National Monetization Pipeline. This pipeline was released only yesterday by the Finance Minister. So in this video we will understand what is the meaning of monetization. And then we will also go ahead to understand how this scheme integrates with the National Infrastructure Pipeline. We will also understand the details of the scheme and later cover the advantages and shortcomings of the same. So let's start the discussion. Before we begin to understand National Monetization Plan, let me explain to you what monetization means. Monetization means bringing to economy to ensure that revenue is generated so that there is profit or loss, but it is a part of the economic system. Now, this is where National Monetization Pipeline also plays an important role. There are important projects which have been created by the government. They are not functional or they are not generating enough revenue for the government. And this is where the government says that it will introduce these kind of projects in the National Monetization Pipeline. This pipeline is for the coming 4 years up to 2025. Right? The main idea is to ensure the unlocking of potential of these projects. Now, these projects are brownfield projects. That means they have already been installed. They are not new projects. The government will not be declaring any new land for these kind of projects, right? The projects belong to majorly road, railways and power sector. They contribute to 2/3 of these National Monetization Pipeline projects, right? So when the revenue will be generated out of it, right? How will it be generated? It will be generated through the private participation. So contracts will be given to private players, to companies, to corporations, so that they can generate revenue and profits, and government will be having a stake in those profits, or the model will be selected later on. So the main idea is to ensure that 6 lakh crore be generated in the coming 4 years. The most interesting part about this scheme is that this scheme is also coterminous with the National Infrastructure Pipeline. What is National Infrastructure Pipeline? Now, government has also ensured that it will put in money. It will put in a lot of money into infrastructure generation in the country for the coming 4 years. This scheme started in the year 2020. So government had initiated the scheme for up to 2025. Government ensured that it would put in 100 lakh crores for this scheme. Not only central government, but state government, center, state and the private bodies, they have to participate. And in the formula, 39% by the union, 40% by the state and 21% by the private organization. This is the sharing of the investment, right? So 100 lakh crores be shared in this particular aspect. So around 40 lakh crores by the government. Now, the kind of revenue that government will generate from National Monetization project, from these contracts, the private contracts, this money can be utilized again in the infrastructure pipeline. So this is how the government has ensured that these both plans are coterminous. Also, this is not anything new. This is nothing new because government has had private participation in many projects, in government projects. Look at the airports. Many of the airports have been subletted. They have been contracted out. For example, Delhi Airport given to GMR for its operations. So schemes like operate, maintain and develop, right? Then we have Infrastructure Investment Trust, right? Power Grid will generate money out of this trust. Also roads. The road infrastructure is built on schemes like operate, maintain and transfer. So PPP model. This is what government is doing right now as well. Government is not selling its projects, its infrastructure on road, railway and power. It is only providing them under contract system so that they be operated, so that effective revenue is generated, right? So these are revenue rights being transferred, not ownership rights. This is a very important aspect of these projects. So what are the advantages of it? The advantages of this are, first, optimal utilization of these assets. So more efficient performance because of the private participation, more maintenance, better maintenance and better efficiency of this project. They will also ensure better employment, right? Because of private participation. Now, another advantage is, if the private participation could not participate and ensure monetization, government had to do it. So government would have had to spend extra finances, extra money. And this is where government will not be spending here. Why? Because private participation will be spending here. So these are chief advantages of this particular scheme, monetization pipeline. Now, for not any reason is UPSC called a tough exam. They will not ask only about the scheme. They will not only ask about the important facets of the schemes and advantages. They will get into critical examination. And therefore, my point is to stress on the challenges of this program. So let us quickly discuss the challenges. Now, before anything, the government has said the government will generate 6 lakh crores in the coming 4 years. And in the coming just 7 months of this financial year, government has said they will generate 88,000 crores by revenue collection through this contract right? Contract system for pipeline, right? Now, is this pragmatic valuation? I'm not sure of it, but the critics say that this may not be pragmatic valuation. The government needs to ensure that these sectors, the participation of the private bodies is such that the valuation of these projects is kept to minimal to begin with, so that there is increased impetus for private bodies to participate, right? Exorbitant pricing and the structure in which payments have to be made friendly to the private players. So this is one, right? The second one is autonomy, transparency, and impartiality. Now, this points to many projects which are government-owned projects. For example, coal mining, right? Stadiums. Now, these have all been part of government. Railways as well, airports. So these are the places where government needs to ensure more autonomy to these private players, because till now only government was the one which was ruling in these particular sectors. For example, railways, coal mines. But if private participation is to be given, then they will have to be also given certain power along with it. So this is what government has to ensure, right? Bureaucracy has to be decreased. The third is public interface. Many of these private participations will be in the field of the places where there is more public, and government will not have to interfere in these places. For example, power sector, right? For example, airport, railways. The private players need to have mechanism to generate profit, and therefore there must be less interference from the government in public interfaces as well. The fourth one is ensuring that the government handholds its ministries, its departments, the state governments, so that these are the sectors, the various ministries also participate in this bidding process for the contracts, right? So these are important challenges. Now you can also see that the government needs to find out those places for contracting which have identified revenue streams. Just a few days back, we studied in one of the editorials how the private bids were very less in the privatization of the railways. If we do not see increased privatization bids only, how will we see more contract bids in participation bids? So this is a very big challenge where the government needs to find the adequate revenue streams, right? Government need not interfere in the tariffs, because if we are ensuring that private participation be there in the power sector, we will have a bill on this in the next session in the parliament, right? Government should not regulate the power tariffs in the cities and the rural areas. This is an important parameter, again, also derived from here. So you can use these examples while you point out these deficiencies. National highways. Now the private players say that they will not be participating in these subcontracting in the monetization pipeline where the highways are less than 4 lane. So this is another issue. And you have also seen the issue of BPCL and Air India, where the privatization bid is going so slow that we cannot expect it to pass on very soon. And this is where the challenges are very similar in these government projects as well. After having understood what is the meaning of monetization, how the government is attempting this monetization up to 2025 and certain challenges associated, we will quickly go through the article that was present in the Gazette magazine, right? So beautiful image talks about this public authority and private investor, and this is the asset rights. The asset right belongs to the government and it has passed on certain rights of operations and maintenance to the private party, right? They will propose certain form of revenue sharing and collection, and public authority will give concessions on the same. So beautiful schematic on the same, right? Now you can use an important keyword called as capital recycling. This is where the government might recycle the amount that was generated from the revenue, the 6 lakh crores, and put in the national infrastructure pipeline. So do remember these keywords, right? National monetization pipeline, national infrastructure pipeline, and the capital recycling of the finances, right? So these are for those strategic assets, those assets which are underperforming, which are not being utilized to their full potential, and they're unlocking the idle capital. So this is the main important significance of this project. So brownfield, either languishing, right? Private participation, these are important keys of this, and most of the projects in road, railway, and power sector. This is most relevant here, right? The government is also trying to ensure that the state government also participates in this. Now, this is a scheme of the national government, and if the state governments participate, the government will also give them certain incentives. For example, if they list an organization, a public sector, right, they will be given certain amount of the capital raised in the next year. If they monetize an asset, they will receive 33% of the amount in the next year, right? So we have also had these kind of bids in the past, where REIT, Infrastructure Investment Trust, they were established. Now these are those trusts where individuals can raise money in the form of a fund, and this is the fund which will be utilized to generate the investment in certain infrastructure projects, for example power, for example road. We have discussed infrastructure investment trusts. So what is the government trying to do through this? Through this scheme, the government is trying to ensure that these assets which are unutilized be utilized. This is one. Effective recycling of the finances. As we mentioned, how one scheme is generating finances and it is transferring to another scheme, right? It will also attract the global investors in these particular sectors. So this is very important, right? The government will also be monitoring these schemes. They will be monitoring, there will be periodic reviews, and there will be regulatory support by the government, right? Now, they will also generate employment, and it will ensure that the government does not pass on its expenditure in this sector, because private sector will be the one which will be effectively participating in these pipelines. The challenges, as we previously discussed, could be lack of interest of the private players, just like we saw in the railway bids, right? Utilization of funds. The government needs to ensure that the 6 lakh crore that was collected, that will be collected from this scheme, is utilized in the most proper way, right? Now, there could be resistance from certain government bodies also, because it is said that the family silver should not be sold, right? Family silver resembles the important kind of institutions and infrastructure the government owns, right? So those should not be contracted out to the private parties. So there could be some resistance, right? What is the wisdom derived out of it? The wisdom derived is that the government must identify these kind of projects which are profit making and still stalled. So government must ensure the private participation in these kind of projects, and therefore it has to institute a commission for identification of such projects. This is one. The second one is ensuring that there is transparency in the project allocation. Why? Because if there is transparency, there is more efficiency, there is more productivity and profitability of the private players, and that is why they will participate. This will ensure that the government scheme of National Monetization Pipeline, it will become a success and will generate 6 lakh crore rupees for the government, right? Now, after having understood the whole scheme of monetization, relating it to the infrastructure pipeline as well, also understanding the advantages and shortcomings, take 30 seconds off and try to think back at all that we discussed, right? And after that, you can attempt this question, right? Discuss the various aspects of National Monetization Pipeline Scheme. What can be the possible benefits and challenges in the scheme? If you've liked this video, share some love on us through likes, shares, comments. And if you subscribe to the channel, you will receive timely updates. Thanks for watching.